things are possible. With God, all things are possible. And God wants you to know this. We have dreams. We have ambition. We have things that we want to accomplish. With man, they might be impossible. But with God, all things are possible. You know, God, if you would trust him, if you'll just trust him, you will know that we need to wait on him, because his word tells us in Isaiah 40 and 31, but those who hope in the Lord, in other words, but those who wait upon the Lord, they will renew their strength. They will mount up on wings as eagles. They will run and not be weary. They will walk and not faint. Sometimes this old world just gets you down. Sometimes this old world just tire you out. Sometimes we get so busy with our inhibitions. We get so busy with our ups and downs and ins and outs and stumbling and falling and pulling ourselves up. Sometimes we get so tired. But God, if we wait on God, God will renew our strength. He says it in his word. But those that wait upon the Lord, sometimes we are in such a hurry. We're trying to get here. And in this fast-paced world of microwave religion, microwave relationship, microwave love, and microwave hate, we have to learn to wait upon God. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. Woo! They shall run and not faint. Would you wait upon God today? Would you stop and take a minute and just say, Lord, I can't, but you can? Would you just say, Lord, I need you? Would you say, Lord, I am weak, but you are strong? Would you just raise up your hands and say, Lord, help me? I need thee. Oh, I need thee. Would you call upon him today? Would you call upon that name of Jehovah Jireh, our provider, Jehovah Nisi, our banner, Jehovah Shalom, our peace, Jehovah Rapha, the God that heals us? Because you know what? There's a way out of your mess, and it's JESUS.
Where can you buy a brand new Nissan with a lifetime warranty? Kingston Pike. Hey, folks, Gerald Anderson with Ted Russell Nissan. You heard it right. Every new Ted Russell Nissan comes with a lifetime warranty, and that's a long, long time. Ted Russell Nissan on Kingston Pike.
Good morning and welcome to AM 1380 WYSH and Ask Your Neighbor. Ask Your Neighbor can also be heard and seen on our website, WYSHradio.com. And if you are in Anderson, Roane, or Morgan County and have Comcast cable, you can watch Ask Your Neighbor on BBB TV Channel 12. Ask Your Neighbor is the program where you call in and do just that. Ask Your Neighbor. Do you have a comment? Do you have a problem? Or do you have a question? Then call in and ask your neighbor. 865-457-1380 or toll free at 877-711-4005. And for those of you that might be listening or watching on the internet, you can email from our website, WYSHradio.com. Just click on the Contact Us button and email your questions. Now sit back and listen as listeners throughout East Tennessee and the entire world answer your questions on Ask Your Neighbor on BBB TV 12 and AM 1380 WYSH.
Everybody, and welcome into a Tuesday. Well, it's the first Tuesday of the month, first Tuesday of November. It's the 5th. It's Election Day. It's a big day all the way around, but it's Ask Your Neighbor time. Dr. David Ayers joins us this morning, as he does on the first Tuesday of every month. Good morning, Doc, and how are you today?
I'm doing fine.
I asked you earlier if you'd voted. You said, no, you guys are voting today. So are you registered still here, or do you have to go back up to?
No, here.
Fantastic.
This is my home. Yeah, I don't know about early voting. I'm not a big fan of early voting. I know a lot of people's jobs sort of require that kind of thing, but it's just more time for them to mess with your vote. So here in Anderson County, we have I liked everything to the last step of the voting. You know,
Where you take it over and feed it in the...
into a black box, and who knows what happens. I think it needs to be more visible than that. Hopefully we'll get back to just doing it by hand and getting the purple thumb like we did over in Iraq. We need that kind of thing because, you know, how many times a year do you get a letter in the mail that says somebody you do business with at some level? Our systems were hacked and some of our information was compromised, and you can sign up and get this credit check for the next year on us. And yeah, so if it's a computer, it can be hacked. It can be hacked. So
So you're voting here today?
I'm voting here, yeah. I'll stand in line and vote. My wife broke her leg since I was here last time.
Oh, Lord.
We were making apple butter, and she was going to cross the creek, and the creek's only about a foot wide.
Okay.
There's a hole. Her foot went in the hole, and her body kept going toward the creek.
Oh, no.
She snapped her fibula, so she can't put any weight on it. So I got a little cart she rolls around on. Our house has steps, so we go up steps at night, and we come down steps in the morning, and stay on that same floor all day. Another couple weeks, I think, before she can put weight on it to make it a walking cast at that point, hopefully. So
that's no fun.
Yeah, I got to go doing dishes and laundry and a few other things. I didn't normally do that often. There's a lot to laundry.
You just figuring that out?
Well, it's not just colored and whites. I can figure that part out. But then
some
things have to be hung up. They can't go in the dryer.
I don't know any of that. You're getting way out of my scope now. Yeah. I can do the laundry. I help the kids when they do theirs or whatever. But once it's and colors and whites, I'm really not that good. Tracy got mad at me here recently. She's like, "You can't put this in with that." And I'm like, "Why? This is all clothes to me. You don't put shirts in with towels. Why? They wrinkle." See, I didn't know any of that. So it's okay.
We don't use softener anymore. We have these big balls you put in there. They look like tennis balls. They go in the dryer.
Yeah.
And it keeps it soft without having to add chemicals to your clothes. But they get stuck down in all the clothes, and then they go all over the floor. So it's all been interesting. She's been a good sport about it. But we didn't have much choice, really.
Yikes.
So it's, I don't know. It's an interesting world. I don't know how the day's going to turn out. Either it's going to be obviously one way, or it's going to be February finding out who won this election. I think it could go either way.
Well, I think if, Georgia's already said they will have their results before people go to bed tonight, based on all their new implementations. So if Georgia and Pennsylvania and one other, maybe North Carolina, if they truly can get their vote in, like they say, Arizona and Nevada, they're all saying it might take some time. But if 3 of those 4 or 5 big swing states come in, whatever that leans to, whatever that, I'd say, thus goes your election pretty easily. In fact, I would almost be willing to say, however Pennsylvania goes, because you've only got 4 or 5, maybe 5 swing states, right? What do you got? You got Michigan, you got Wisconsin, you got North Carolina, you've got Arizona, you got PA. Am I missing one?
I don't know.
Georgia. Michigan, Wisconsin, which they said Wisconsin is Trump, but Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. So I would say if you can get 3 of those, any 3, and the same person wins those 3, that will be your president. And like I said, I almost would go with, if you wanted to do the big gamble bet, you could pick one state. And I would say if you picked Pennsylvania, whoever wins that would be your president.
They both have spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania.
It's a close state.
Yeah.
I don't, again, people that know me know this. I'll say it out loud again. I don't, I feel like that put to you this way. No matter what news agency you watch, Newsmax, Fox, if you read it online, every single thing that you've seen says it's a toss-up, it's a poll. Have you seen anything that says it's a runaway either way? So they're saying it's like a basketball game where every single play is the jump ball. Nobody's running down court. Nobody's doing this. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. And I will tell you that if you read the fine print on any of the polls, which most people do not, in every single poll that I've read, every single one that's made the notations, they say that the Democrat response is almost 2-to-1 compared to that of the Republican response. In other words, Republicans that identify as Republicans declined to state if they voted, how they voted, when they voted, whereas they've had a 70-30 split to the respondents being Democrat respondents. And just that alone leads me to believe that Republicans are not talking about it. I mean, nobody wants to have their house raided like Mar-a-Lago or be shot in the ear. So most of them aren't responding to it. And therefore, I think you'll see that play out. So, I mean, there's just a lot of, and also the fact that in Pennsylvania, last election, we started 1 million votes down in early voting. We're ahead now in early voting in Pennsylvania. Republicans. Now that doesn't mean that the same amount's going to show up on election day, but typically Republicans vote bigger on election day than not. I know that a lot have voted already. So if you look at those factors, and that's the fact. Go, if you guys don't believe me, go pull up a poll and read it. If they give their statistical data of how their poll was obtained, you'll see that Democrats are responding more readily than Republicans, and that's usually and it even says this in the New York Times poll that tends to lead to an underestimation, underpolling of the Republicans and the president. So if you see those three states and they come back red, or any of those three states come back blue, that's going to be your winner. And I just feel like that people have been grossly underestimating the polls, or grossly underestimating the people that are not participating in the polls. And I just feel like it's going to be a huge election. I really do. I feel like that it's going to be a Republican election, the House, the Senate, and the president, because not one single person within the sound of my voice, not one single person listening on internet, not one single person in these United States of America are better off today than they were 4 years ago based on the policies and the mistakes made by the current administration. And this is the current administration that's running. So you've either got to turn around and say, yeah, I screwed up for 4 years, but I promise I'll do better, or you've got to own it and say what we're doing is absolutely right, and we're going to keep doing it even though bread, costs 4 times more than it did when we came in. And neither one of those are winning arguments for the current administration, which is Kamala Harris that's running. And so don't see anybody that actually considers voting, considers politics, considers the future outside of just ideology and hope, voting to continue gas going up, to continue not being able to have enough money in FEMA to deal with another hurricane, to continue to send money overseas when we don't have enough money to help North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Upper Tennessee. I don't see anybody. I mean, if folks want to vote for that, I doubt you'd like it if you were inside of it, if you were having to deal with it. So, I mean, there may be more stupid people out there than I know, but I know a lot of Republicans and I know a lot of Democrats, and not one single one of them can tell you with a straight face that they're better off than they were 4 years ago. And at the end of the day, we want things better for our kids than us. And today, if I fell over dead, it's not better for my kids than it was for me.
Yeah. I would say, I wrote my brother months back, I said, what you'll find out as we get closer and closer to the election, the polls will tighten up. And because that way they'll say he won or she won, because you can tell, because it was getting tighter and tighter and tighter. But polls, I think, have ceased to be a reflection of reality, and I meant to alter reality. They're more to create news than they are to reflect what people are thinking. I just think they're,
Well, I don't think they're all like that. I just think that people manipulate it. I mean, I used to have a friend all the time that would just straight up lie when they'd call. He would say, "Oh yeah, I'm voting for Biden. I got a Biden sign in the yard, and I've got 19 family members." And it was just and then he would giggle about it. You know what I mean? Laugh about it. I mean, I know numerous people that have done that. I'm sure there are people on all sides that do that. So I mean, it's not accurate. And exit polls are not accurate.
No. I think, I look at the signs in the yard because Oak Ridge is much more, it's probably the one Democrat stronghold in Anderson County because you have a lot of government workers there, obviously. But it seems to me if they have one Democrat sign in the yard, they have 5 Democrat signs in the yard. So I think it's like a team sport to them. It's like they're rooting for Tennessee, your volunteers. It's not like policy matters anything. It's just that's just my team, and that's who I'm going with. So to the degree there's a certain group out there like that.
Well, it's been, in years past, that's not necessarily been a negative thing. People, they grew up and they were raised Republican, they were raised Democrat, and therefore, the way you were raised reflected kind of the same things that those parties reflected. And so it was okay. We weren't as determined to dig into each and every candidate. We accepted that of the party, you know. Today it's different. Today you've got an extreme right wing, just like you have an extreme left wing. Then you've got a moderate right wing. I think the moderate left wing, I think it's still there. I just don't think they are allowed to admit it. I still think that there are people that are moderate Democrats. So, so today when you just say automatically that you're one way or the other, if you just say I'm a Democrat and I accept it, well, that means you accept the former governor of Virginia saying you killed the baby after it's born, because that's what the Democratic Party is. And I know that the people don't do that. So you can't just be a team sport anymore where you pick R or D's. But some people still do that, I think, just because of the way that they were raised, the way that they, see it, and they accept the main leader of the party, and therefore the trickle-down effect. That's why they call it down ballot. If the president does good, if Kamala Harris does great tonight, then all of the senators that are running it, they will do better. If Donald Trump does great tonight, that's why they're going to down ballot. They might not even know the senator, but if they vote for Trump and he's got the R, they're going to vote for this guy with the R. That's just systemic of how we were raised. It'll change. Yeah. Watch and see if it doesn't change with all this information that our kids have now, that grandkids have now. It's not just going to be a trusting of the party going forward. I think each candidate will be vetted or evaluated or lied about or, propped up, whatever. But it'll be candidate by candidate a lot more than it used to be.
Either get rid of parties or go to 8 parties in the future. They could go either way. I think the day of the 2-party system is coming to a close.
It could be. I don't know. It's just going to be interesting. I say if by midnight, again, Georgia, I think Georgia's red. I do.
I think so. As a state, it's red.
Yeah.
You got Atlanta there, but.
Yeah, as a state, I think, but I think it'll skew red. I think that they will fall for President Trump. But like I said, PA is toss up. I think Nevada's Trump. I think so. I think Nevada's Trump. So, again, it's just going to see how people vote, and just how. Again, Tim was here yesterday. One of our county. We have a local guy that's he used to run a train system, and he wrote a little Christmas story to read on this train that they used to run back and forth in Bricewell, new up in that area, and. He wanted a Christmas story, and they wanted to use like Polar Express, but they couldn't so he wrote his own, right, for just this Christmas story on their train. And some folks were looking at property. He's got property up New River that they were looking at to use a TV show, and somehow stumbled upon him telling about this little train he used to run and his story. And so they took his story, and now they've made it a book that's going to be released, Evergreen Christmas Tree, and that's coming out this week, going to be in stores everywhere, and Amazon. Then they're already making a animated show about it. And following that, they are going to make a TV show. You got a call? Yeah. Oh, okay, we got a call. Got a call on line 1. Good morning. Welcome to Ask Your Neighbor. Do you have a question or comment for Dr. Ayers this morning?
Yes, I was wanting to know about the testosterone.
Testosterone.
I'm on diabetic, and they're telling me my testosterone's too low, and they give me shots, and when I take the shot, it goes real high, and then time I take another one, it's dropped way back down. I was just wondering about that, and what exactly it is, and how to control it.
All right, you want to hang up and listen?
Yes, please.
Thank you, pal. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Okay, testosterone. It's the male hormone. It's what makes the little boys into men. It's around puberty. Men voice drops about an octave, actually. Women's voices drop about 2 notes. And you get hair in places. You get muscle development. Your bones get harder. Then as you go into growth spurt, which ends about 18. Girls enter puberty a little bit earlier than boys, and they're usually finished growing about age 16. So if you're a 16-year-old girl, you're probably as tall as you're going to be. Boys go about to 18, but we start later. So that's why in junior high or middle school, I guess now, there's some physical advantage of girls over boys. They've already started into their puberty growth spurt, so they can be faster and stronger. But it's a steroid hormone. So we talk about steroids. Steroids just means it has cholesterol as its backbone. And other steroid hormones would be cortisol, prednisone. In the body would be vitamin D. It's a steroid. And progesterone, estrogen. Those are all steroids. So what we're having right now in America is a lot of low testosterone. In fact, it's getting to be quite an issue. And we'll talk about later today, or maybe now, we'll talk about why that is. But if it gets low, men tend to lose muscle mass. Men can get some feminization, actually. You know, everybody's heard about man boobs or moobs or whatever you want to call them. And loss of libido or loss of joie de vivre, you know, your joy of life. You can lose all those things. And so there's a big movement to replace it. Upsides are you can get a lot of that back, you can muscle mass back, libido back, strength back, and all that. Downside, you can get anger issues depending on the dose. I mean, testosterone makes man a man, and that's one thing men have is a bit more anger in them than women do. So does it cause cancer, I guess, is one of the questions. It doesn't seem to, okay? It doesn't seem to cause cancer. Now, if you have a prostate cancer, it might make it grow faster. Just the same way with women sometimes who have breast cancers. If they take supplemental estrogen, it probably doesn't give them breast cancer, but it might make it grow faster if they've got one. It can make your prostate grow, so your PSA will probably go up if you're on, that's your prostate-specific antigen, how they screen for prostate cancer. It'll probably go up if you're on testosterone, because your prostate probably does get bigger. So if it's going up and down, say you're on shots and it's going up and then it's going down, it's going up and down, you're getting your hot flashes and all that kind of thing. What they need to do is to adjust the dose and the dosing. So if it's going way high, then maybe they need a lower dose. If it's dropping too low, then maybe you need to dose it more often. So maybe a smaller dose once a week or something like that. If they're doing once a month, I don't know how they're dosing you. But smaller doses more often sounds like you need to cut the highs and lows out. Smaller dose will cut the high out. Giving it more often will cut the lows out. And I'm sure they can get you stabilized some way. People typically feel better, really do.
Men with prostate cancer, though, they don't take testosterone.
I don't think they recommend it. I think it would increase the chance of growing. In fact, one of the treatments for widespread prostate cancer in men is chemical castration, or used to just do physical castration. So it
to stop the testosterone production.
All the testosterone out of there. Now, why I've been getting low testosterone, that's a question. Some of it's probably the amount of soy in our life. Soy is like herbal estrogen, phytoestrogen. Some of it may be due to atrazine. If you remember the story that was on Alex Jones originally about the gay frogs, the frogs really weren't gay. They were actually female. They were turned female. So they were male tadpoles. Male tadpoles got exposed to atrazine, which is an herbicide we use on a lot of our farms, and it ran into the water where the tadpoles were, and it turned the male tadpoles into female tadpoles. Not genetically, but physically they were, and they grew up to be female frogs that laid eggs and had babies and were mated with male frogs. So that's where they came up with the gay frog thing, but they really were females at that point. They had the whole female reproductive structure. So it does do the same thing in men. So to the degree it's in our food, and it's in our water, and it is in our food, and it is in our water, what it does, it affects aromatase. Aromatase is the enzyme that turns testosterone into estrogen. And we have that in us already. And it affects that hormone or that enzyme, and therefore the testosterone gets made into estrogen. So you get feminizing of men, and it's a big problem. It's a big problem. And like I say, sperm counts are falling in men precipitously. Testosterone's falling precipitously. And we got this whole androgynous creatures we're making out of men. They're male genetically, but they're not so male looking otherwise.
There you go. So basically, if he's doing it monthly and it's going up and down, he might want to do a much lower dose weekly, or just talk to your doctor about the
small dose
peaks
more
and
often.
valleys.
That should fix the ups and downs of it.
There you go. Remember, guys, if you have questions, call us. It's much easier, much more fun for us to answer your questions and any kind of medical issues that you might have, questions that you might have about something. Call and ask Dr. Ayers, and he'll be happy to do his best to tell you. So what else is going on in medicine?
Well, that thing is, since we're talking about herbicides, this is glyphosate, which is Roundup. It's already been, at least in court, it's been proven to cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So it's in your water. You can ask your water company for what's in the water, and they'll give you like 2 charts. The top chart is the things they're required by law to put in there, and then the bottom chart will be things that are not required by law to address, but they tell you it's in there. And on there, you'll find that your water has glyphosate in it. And if you eat oats for your health, you're eating glyphosate. It's in a lot of the grains. So what happens is glyphosate, which is Roundup, kills plants, right? You spray it in your yard to get rid of weeds and things. And Monsanto, they went into the lab and they said, well, we're going to come up with this little thing here. We're going to have corn and soybeans, and it's going to be resistant to Roundup. That way farmers can just plow their fields and then plant their crops with our special seeds. And then when it gets so tall and the weeds start coming up, they just spray the whole farm with Roundup, and it won't kill their corn, it won't kill their soybeans, but it'll kill everything else, and they won't have to cultivate. Well, that's good, except it all gets into the water.
Good for the farmers.
Yeah. Well, and it gets in the food, too. They also use it to dry the grain. So it's on the grain. Anything kind of grain product you're getting, you could probably get a load of Roundup, and it's a known carcinogen. And then I don't know. Once you sign up with Monsanto, you can't like save the seeds and plant them next year. They'll sue you right out of existence. So you have to keep buying Monsanto seeds. And I don't know what would grow in your field. If you quit using Monsanto seeds, I don't know how long the Roundup stays in the fields, where if you went back to regular seeds next year, would it even grow? Because, Roundup kills about everything. So I don't recommend you use Roundup at all. We have to stop this. Atrazine, and I suspect Roundup, but I know atrazine is not allowed in European Union. They don't allow that stuff. Well, here in the United States, we allow it. In fact, a lot of our crops, we can't even sell them in the European Union because they have toxic stuff in them, and yet we eat them. We have to stop that. And of course, that's the whole RFK thing. If you're talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. getting into some level of authority, that's one of the things he's wanting to address. All these additions to our crops and the use of the land and how it's not healthy. We're not eating healthy food. I used to think people were fat because they ate too much, and but that's not true. I mean, I'm sure it's true for some times. But why is our population 30, 40% obese? Well, it's because of our food. Our food is made to make you fat. And we have to stop that. We have way too much diabetes and things in this country, and it's all because we're obese. But the obesity is not because necessarily you're eating too much. It's you're eating stuff what comes from the store. We have to stop it. Like I say, if you pick up something and you look at the ingredients, and you should look at the ingredients, and it's a paragraph, put it back. There's nothing you're eating that should be a paragraph. It should say peanut butter, should say peanuts, water. That's it. Now, I learned today something interesting. It's the FDA. FDA is not looking out for your health, by the way. If it's less than 500 milligrams, which is quite a bit, actually, they don't have to put it on the label. So you could have 500 milligrams of some poison, and it doesn't have, like MSG. MSG is bad about causing headaches and migraines, and that's monosodium glutamate. People like it because it's a flavor enhancer, but if it's less than 500 milligrams, they don't have to put it on the label. So you look, oh, definitely MSG in there. Well, it might. It might have 499 milligrams of MSG in there, but they don't have to put it on there. So all that stuff's got to be addressed. I think it's, in addition to vaccines, which hopefully Kennedy's going to address, the food is the other thing he needs to address, and I think that's part of his thing. In fact, he said the first day, if Trump wins, he gets in office, the very first day, they're going to take fluoride out of the water in American water systems. Because, there was a court case this year where they showed that the fluoride was toxic to the brain, particularly in children, particularly in women who are pregnant who drink fluoridated water. It affects the IQ of their babies in the long run. We have a whole generations of kids that aren't as smart as they ought to be because they've been drinking fluoridated water. And then the Cochrane, which is who do the most thorough studies in medicine, they did a review. They call it Cochrane Reviews, Cochrane. They found that the benefits to your teeth are minimal at best with fluoride. So there's not really any benefit of it being in your water. And it also it causes neurodevelopmental delays and disorders in children. It causes thyroid disease. It causes loss of IQ. It causes bone cancer. It causes bone fractures. And causes arthritis. And you're drinking every day as you drink the city water or the treated water. And hopefully that'll get stopped if Trump wins.
What do you think about the medical positions that RFK Jr. takes?
It's about the only thing I agree with him on. He's he's pro-abortion. He's the left winger to the max. But because he was an attorney, he had people bring to him where they got poisoned by something in the water system, and he took those cases on. And then people got injured by vaccines. He took those cases on. And he's come to see where, well, he asked Fauci, he said, are there any pre-use safety studies on vaccines? I mean, are there any studies where actually checked to see if a vaccine was safe before it was introduced to the public? And they couldn't find any. None on any vaccine. There's no pre-safety studies. See, vaccines sort of fall in a special category, like magic, and you can't say any bad things about vaccines because, if it's on YouTube, it gets demonetized if it's whatever. Because it's like it's holy. You can't say anything bad about vaccines, but the truth is, it's one of the few good things that's come out of the COVID thing is the vaccine use in the United States has fallen precipitously. Parents aren't vaccinating their kids anymore. And that's got them all scared because that was their cash cow. If you could get on the vaccine schedule for the United States, you had money coming in for eternity. And now people aren't getting them. And the thing is, I don't know that we even need them. I think we need to stop them all. I don't recommend anybody get any vaccine. And until we look at them all and see, do we need all these? I'm sure we don't need all of them. Like I say, there's 92 separate shots between birth and 18 now. And hepatitis B, why are we immunizing all the babies against hepatitis B? That's a bloodborne pathogen. We give them to them before they even leave the hospital. It's just ridiculous. The only study that was ever done on them was like a 5-day study. And the kids didn't die in 5 days, so they said it must be safe. I mean, that's how silly this stuff is. It's, they're pre-licensing. There are no pre-licensing safety studies. My wife reminds me on my phone here.
Okay.
So a year ago, we mentioned a study about did anybody die from the COVID shots, and could you prove it? Well, they done a study where they looked through all the literature and found out where actually autopsies were done on somebody that died after they got the shot. So somebody got a shot with COVID, mRNA, and then they died. And was it the shot that killed them? And what they found out was 73.9% of the time it was due to the shot. And then Lancet pulled that thing off the internet, but now somebody else had peer-reviewed it, and it got published. And that's just the truth of it. Now, most of these people died within 14 days of the shot, the last shot they got. Obviously, didn't get any more since they were dead.
Okay.
But
hang on, I think we got
sure.
it. Good morning. Welcome to Ask Your Neighbor. Do you have a call for Dr. Ayers this morning?
I am.
All right, go ahead. You're on.
Good morning. I'd like to ask Dr. Ayers. I'm being treated for, and I won't pronounce this right, but it's Malaysia rheumatica, and I'd like to ask him what he could tell me about that, and I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Did you catch what it was, Doc?
It's the first word.
Malaysia. What was it again, sir?
Malaysia rheumatica. It starts with an M.
Okay. I got the Malaysia part. I didn't get the last part.
Rheumatica, but
Rheumatica?
I don't know the term.
Rheumatica. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've never heard of Malaysia rheumatica. I'm not a doctor. You say it's new to you too?
I haven't heard either.
Okay.
Let me just check something here real quick.
Okay.
Here. Maybe polymyalgia rheumatica. Maybe that's what it just sounded. Polymyalgia rheumatica is, I think it falls in the autoimmune category. People tend to get pain in their shoulders and their hips. Their sedimentation rate, which is a marker for inflammation, goes up really high. It responds very well to steroids. And a lot of times you can get it to sort of burn itself out, and you can be weaned off the steroids. Of course, taking steroids, so yeah, when I put it in polymyalgia rheumatica pops up. So polymyalgia rheumatica. I suspect that's what he's talking about. So stiffness, soreness, usually neck, upper shoulders, hips, sort of the sides of the trunk, and it responds real well to taking prednisone. But then you get moon-faced and can cause diabetes taking steroids. But it does respond very well to intervention. That's probably what they're talking about.
Okay.
Polymyalgia rheumatica.
All right.
So anyway, the thing was, but all these people died within about 2 weeks of the last shot in these studies. I think it was one necropsy, which was an animal. I guess an animal got a shot, and they did the autopsy on the animal, and it died of the shot too. We get a lot of calls about Ozempic, and there's pros and cons to Ozempic. It's a drug, so it's going to have good sides and bad sides. The bad sides, well, the good sides, you got weight loss. Downsides can be, you get depression. That's been a big issue. Loss of muscle mass. People tend to get sort of a wasting kind of look if they take it too much. And a lot of people gain their weight when they stop it. But there's been 162 deaths, not just with Ozempic, but there's 3 or 4 drugs in that category.
Semaglutide and
right.
Triziperide, I don't know what they are.
So it's up to 162 deaths from Ozempic in the United States.
Did we have deaths when it was just being used for diabetes? Or did they even check that?
Probably did. I don't doubt that it did.
Because it was, for years, it was used by, thousands and thousands of people to kind of keep their diabetes under wraps, and the weight loss was an offset, right?
Right. I'm not sure that... I have to look up if it even has indications for weight loss. It must, because the FDA is considered using it in children, which I think would be a mistake.
Well, I know that they approved like the semaglutide and some of the other stuff for weight loss. I don't know exactly what it was, but it's been within the last couple of years because of all these weight loss clinics that have weight loss had to wait until it was approved to do that before they could prescribe it for weight loss. So.
Yeah.
But that study is just since it's been approved for weight loss?
It was just a report.
Gotcha.
I don't think it was a study per se.
Okay.
It's just a report. Yeah, I mean, any given day, about a third of the medicines written by physicians will not be for an approved use. And there are good reasons for that. I mean, it takes so much money to get a drug through the FDA. If they find out another use for it, they can usually just get the word out to the doctors. Now, the pharmaceutical reps can't mention that when they're talking to the doctor. That would be illegal, since it's not an approved use. But doctors find out what it's good for, and then the word spreads, and we use stuff off-label all the time. That's not unusual. But so I'm sure doctors were using it for that long before it ever got approved for that. Same with metformin. When it came out, it had significant weight loss. But, it got to be hard to tolerate. There was the drug before metformin came out, which is glucophage. There was a thing called fenformin, and I had deaths with that. So people were a bit scared of metformin when it came out, but those deaths didn't really occur with it.
I remember when they had thin fin and all
heart
that.
Disease,
yeah,
right.
it caused heart problems.
Yeah, so it was fenformin, and I can't remember what the other fin was, but there's 2 drugs, led to heart failure. Some things you don't find until drugs get out and get in wide use, but FDA is supposed to try to minimize that. Asked them what are the number of drugs that get recalled or get warning labels added to them after they're out by the FDA, and I think it's like somewhere between 25 and 50%.
They have to go back and kind of reevaluate.
Pull it off altogether or put warnings on it. Yeah.
Well, I remember trying to get a friend of mine was trying to get Chantix here back, I guess, about 2 years ago, and that had been pulled off it's back, but that had been pulled off, and I don't even know why. I just remember they said they had recalled it and they were doing some additional studies or something on it, but it's back out on the market.
Yeah. There's been some. Listen to me now. What I say on this show are my opinions of things, okay? So don't say this is like FDA approved things. I'm not in that category where I'm going to talk about necessarily what's FDA approved. If it is, I'll tell you. But some things people are going to have to do because they decided to do it. So if I talk to you about some kind of new therapy for something that's really off the railroad track of medicine, if you choose to do it, that's on you, okay? I'm just throwing information out here. You can take and do what you want with it. But I think it's important information that you need to know. So I've talked about how I might be successful in treating cancer. And there's also fenbendazole, and there's mebendazole. And mebendazole we use to treat pinworms in kids, if you get pinworms these days. So all 3 of those are basically antiparasitic drugs. Now remember, drugs get labeled by what they were first used for. So they'll always be called antiparasitic drugs, or horse dewormer, or cow dewormer, or whatever. So there's been some studies come out where they've shown to be effective.
Is that the ivermectin or whatever it's called? They do that too? Use that for the same thing?
Right.
Okay.
So ivermectin was one of the treatments for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And they made fun of that. And then they did some studies which were on hydroxychloroquine. Remember the study that they did on hydroxychloroquine? They used deadly doses of it, and people died. And they said, well, see, this drug's not safe. It killed people. Well, nobody in the right mind would dose that big. And same with ivermectin. They used treatments that were late, so it didn't work as well. And they said, well, see, it doesn't work. There are ways you can treat cancer that your doctor's not going to tell you about, and you need to know this. Now, I have seen it used 3 or 4 times myself, and by and large, it's been in people who are on hospice because they're the only people willing to take it. As long as the doctor's recommending therapy, you can't hardly get somebody to take something that's off the beaten trail because they think they've got to hope with their doctor. But remember, doctors hardly talk about cures when it comes to cancer. They'll say it's got a 54% 5-year survival. They won't tell you it's going to cure you. But I think there are cures out there for cancer, and I think, A, they're cheap, and I think, B, they're very safe. C, they have hardly any side effects. And D, you can get them over the counter pretty much. How long have people known that? I didn't know about it till about last year and a half. But evidently, if you search in the literature, it's been out there about 20 years. Okay. In fact, it was Dr. Kathleen Ruddy, R-U-D-D-Y. She's a cancer surgeon. She had a friend who had prostate cancer, and he took all the therapies. It didn't get better. He took all the therapies. It didn't get better. And it spread now to his bones. And he'd been a marathon runner, and of course now he couldn't even get around. His right leg was very swollen. And she said, she looked up the studies on ivermectin and says, you should try this. And so he tried it. And now I think he's got one spot that still shows up on a rib, and he's got damage from the radiation he took. When his doctor said, there's nothing more we can do for you, call hospice and call a priest, is what his doctor told him. And she told him to try this stuff. And I think he does dancing now. He dances 3 hours, 4 hours, 3 nights a week.
Just from the ivermectin?
I think that's all he took. Now, if it was me, I would do more than that. You can go to a thing called Contraband Cures, okay? CONTRABANDCURES.com. Contrabandcures.com. And then there'll be protocols there, and one will be the FSM protocol. That stands for Florida Shark Man. I don't know who Florida Shark Man is. I think it's actually a group of people. But what they have done, these are people of exceptional intelligence who have researched the literature and come up with these protocols and how to treat. Now, I don't know the reasoning behind why things work that I necessarily agree with, but I will say they're very successful. I think last month I told you there was a gentleman that we knew who was on hospice for esophageal cancer. He was barely getting around. He had an oxygen tank. I think he was in a wheelchair. He couldn't move. And he was sent home to die, basically. And he took this protocol, just one round of the protocol, and now he's mowing grass. He doesn't use any oxygen. He's up and about like any other normal person. He's put weight back on. There are different protocols, I think, based somewhat on what kind of cancer you might have. Or you can go to Florida Shark Man, all one word, Florida, like the state, shark, as in the fish, man.org, and look up, and there's protocols there. And there's initial protocols, and some are based on starting at what phase of the moon's in, because there's some theory that parasites are involved in the formation of cancer, and parasites do fluctuate with the moon cycle, so that's why they do that. And then there's maintenance protocols, And right now I've got a friend who's taking a protocol, and I'll have to keep you up to date and see how it's going. He's a young fella, and he's got really bad cancer, like all over. And if I had cancer, I would take one of these. This is just me. Trying to be you.
The what is it? Ivermectin? How do you say?
Iver.
I-V-E-R.
Mectin.
Okay.
But all that'll be under these, if you look it up.
Contraband cures.
Yeah. And then the Florida Shark Man. I like floridasharkman.org. So it's pretty amazing. And like I say, since I was here, there's been 2 articles published showing how ivermectin actually kills cancer. And it does it in a way that's sort of unique. It causes the cells to destroy themselves. It doesn't affect the normal cells at all. People don't get sick. They don't lose their hair. They don't lose tons of weight. There's a thing called a Herxheimer reaction that happens in almost all these people, and they can sort of liver numbers will go up. But you have to take the crap out of your body. So if you destroy a bunch of cells in your body, your liver has to filter all that out, and so it can cause the liver numbers to go up. Some people think you should stop it while if that happens to you, and then restart it afterwards. Some people, they press on. The guy that had esophageal cancer, he kept taking it. He did fine. If you're on chemo, can you take it? It appears so. There are plenty of studies in literature that shows that ivermectin and mebendazole decrease resistance that builds up from chemo. So if you heard somebody had chemo and then it came back and they tried to use chemo again and it didn't seem to work the next time, these medicines seem to decrease the resistance. So you can use it in conjunction with what your doctor's giving you. It's just me talking. You don't have to listen to me at all. You make your own choices in life. But if I chose to use the conventional therapy, I would at the same time, because he would kick you out of his office. And I think that's wrong. He shouldn't throw you out. Somebody, and they told him, they said, you can't use ivermectin. In fact, the doctor's telling my friend, you can't use ivermectin while you're using our protocol. And so they left. They didn't go back. But I don't know why. It seems like they're more worried about how their study's going to come out than if you're going to get better. But I'm telling you right now, by and large, it appears to this doctor sitting here that you can treat yourself for cancer at home. And it really, I don't think it's much more than having a cold. That's what it's going to come into. I'm pretty sure about there. I saw an article, if you remember the Q drops, remember all that? Back in 2018, 2019. One of them said, there are cures for cancer that you're not being told. And I thought, well, why did you just tell me now?
Yeah, really.
You know as they are.
If you don't.
But it appears there are. And it shouldn't develop resistance. It's not like treating a bacteria or something where resistance would happen. So I'm telling you, that's the most exciting thing you're going to hear from the doctor today, is that you can treat yourself for cancer at home, probably, okay? That's a choice you'll have if you're going to. I'd say if you're on hospice, I'd definitely do it, because, hey, they've given up on you. So, other things in the literature. A PhD doctor, William Parker, he did a study that showed serious links between acetaminophen and likely permanent impairments in cognition and socialization in children. Some people call autism, okay? So Tylenol. So we're probably using a little bit too much Tylenol in our country. I'm not saying you can't ever use it, but there does seem to be some correlation between that and autism, at least in this one guy's review of the literature. We used to let fevers run their course, because that's what your body's doing to try to deal with the infection it's got. That's your body's natural response to being sick. Mm-hmm. It drives the temperature up and tries to kill this thing that's invaded it. And it makes your blood flow faster, and it takes more white cells to the infection. All this stuff happens when your temperature goes up. And we want it to go back down to normal. I would not treat a fever in a child unless you thought the fever itself was making the child feel badly. Okay, then you might make a justification for it. But short of that, I just let it go. What if it got to be 104, 105? Does it cause brain damage? I don't think there's any much evidence that really happens. I think you need to go to the hospital or let your doctor know if it is, especially if you use Tylenol and it still goes up that high. But because that usually means something else is really wrong. It's not that the fever itself is the problem. It's what's causing the fever getting out of hand. Don't do tepid baths or cold water enemas. You know, that just makes people feel worse. If you're trying to make them feel better, don't do that to them. If you take somebody with a fever and stick him in a tepid bath, he's going to get rigors, R-I-G-O-R-S. It's where they start shaking all over because your body wants to drive the temperature up. That's why you start shaking, to drive the temperature up. So you can't externally cool it. It's like, I can tell people, if your furnace is set on 98, you got a couple options. You could turn the thermostat down, which is sort of what Tylenol does. Or you could open all the doors and windows, right? Mm-hmm. But if you open all the doors and windows, the furnace is going to keep running. That's what it's like putting somebody in a tepid bath. The furnace is still running, and you're trying to cool off externally. It'd be better to use Tylenol. But I wouldn't use a lot of Tylenol because it does seem to be some association with autism along with some of these shots. The shareholders in Moderna are suing the company for misleading data on their mRNA RSV vaccine, which is interesting. Not many companies get sued by their shareholders. I guess people invested more money into the company because of this upcoming thing, and they said, well, its effectiveness was not as good as they were led to believe it was when they put all this money into the company thinking they were going to get a big return on it. So now they're mad, and they sued the company for misleading the shareholders. Now, one reason COVID was as bad as it was and the people that it was bad in was that their vitamin D was low. Vitamin D plays a major role in your immune response. I cannot stress that enough, because back in the 80s, when I started in medicine, it was verboten to step out in the sun without 45 sunscreen or something. So we told all of our patients, put sunscreen up here and go out in the sun. It's going to protect you from getting cancer, and it does to some degree. But your body makes vitamin D when the sun hits your skin. And so when COVID rolled around, everybody had low vitamin Ds. And you had low vitamin D. Vitamin D controls your immune system. Your immune system didn't make the right response, and people got sick, and a lot of people died. Remember, what I've seen in the literature, nobody had a vitamin D of 50 or above was ever put on a vent for COVID or ever got admitted to the hospital for COVID. Definitely didn't die with COVID. Day on as much skin as you can expose without getting arrested, and it's still warm out there now. You can still lay out in the sun.
Oh yeah.
So if you got to take pills, I would take 2,000 a day in the summer and still get out.
2,000 milligrams?
International units. It comes in IUs.
Okay.
And then I'd take 5,000 in the winter if you can't get out. So I had mine checked the other day because I went to the doctor and it was 82, and he thought I should back off. I said, sounds like a good number to me, because normal is actually 30 to 100. I don't know why 82 would be bad, but some people worry about you get hypercalcemia or get too much calcium in your blood. It does affect calcium metabolism, but
the vitamin D does.
So, because that's what you typically think about vitamin D in your bones, right? But I thought 82 was a good number, so I'm going to just
stick with it.
Park it where it is, yeah.
What did he tell you to do? Stay inside more?
I think I could take it it's in some of the stuff I take, but my doctor is a very good friend. We went to medical school together.
Yeah.
And
so you can have healthy discussions.
Well, he thinks I'm crazy. Sometimes I think he's crazy.
There you go.
Yeah, because I don't take the flu shot. I didn't take the COVID shot. You know, I had to be left out in the car in the parking lot until my appointment came up because I wouldn't wear a mask in their lobby. Then my blood pressure would be up. I said, well, I got arrested out there. That's why my blood pressure's up. I mean, the security guard was threatening me. I said, I ain't wearing that thing. So don't. If masks get in vogue again, like in California, they're making you wear them in nursing homes and hospitals and clinics and stuff. Just don't do it. They don't help. I don't care. They don't help. And they actually hurt your health. You'll be sicker for wearing the mask. Just don't do it. It doesn't stop. You know, there was in Antarctica, there are sometimes when somebody has to go there by themselves to the South Pole because they have this neutrino detection thing down there called the ice cube, I think. And sometimes people go down there by themselves to monitor this stuff. And they have no interaction with anybody else. And then they had like, I forget, 10 or 12 people in a row that caught a cold. And now it's causing an uproar in medicine. Well, how they catch a cold? We thought we caught colds from other people, right? People sneeze on you and you catch a cold. Evidently not. So now.
Because these people are isolated in Antarctica by themselves.
So where do they get a cold? But a bunch of them got colds. And so now we have to rethink our whole theory of viruses and spread of upper respiratory infections. It's caused a little bit of a furor out there. I got between now and next time I come back, I have to go to a conference just because of the amount of CME you have to keep. But the last time we asked them a question and they wouldn't answer it, they just refused.
What'd you ask them?
Well, it was about taking COVID shots in pregnant women. We never give anything to pregnant women.
True.
And now they want to take this COVID shot that we know nothing about. Yeah.
And when you asked, they wouldn't answer?
No. They were promoting the shot for pregnant women. And they're just doing what basically pharmaceutical companies tell them to say. And the CDC has lost their mind. I see Australia's getting their own CDC. I don't know if they don't want to listen to ours again because after the last time they didn't do very well. But if you think of the CDC as a vaccine company, then you'll understand everything the CDC does. They make about $4 billion a year off vaccines because the Bayh-Dole Act, which let people in the government cash on anything they had to do with the patent. So, speaking of those, the NIH, there's a guy in NIH called
NIH,
National Institutes of Health.
Okay.
Which, I used to trust in people. I thought, well, they don't have any dog in the fight. It's not like they're the pharmaceutical companies. But a guy named Eliezer Maslach, Maslsch. And I think he's quit now. He was appointed in 2016. He had a $2.6 billion budget, and he did all the research into Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Okay.
And what they found out was he faked the data to make it favorable to the pharmaceutical companies. So he's getting paid by our tax dollars to protect us and to come up with new things that might help us. And then he published like 800 studies. And he faked the data. It showed up when people started noticing they'd seen that picture before.
Don't they get in trouble for that? Who monitors that?
Well, science, I think, with a magazine that reviewed him. They took it on themselves. They thought something was fishy. And they interviewed, and they found all this stuff where he fudged the data to make it favorable to the pharmaceutical companies. Yeah. That's maybe one more weird thing.
All right.
And I'll let go here. This is even going to be stranger maybe than the cancer thing, but cancer's pretty strange. So if you're remembering two things from the show today, you can probably treat yourself for cancer at home. The second thing is a biofield. Right now, the electric company up in West Virginia, when I'm up there, they want to put a smart meter on my house. Now, I know everybody in the Clinton Utility Board has smart meters on their houses. I can't remember the guy's name who was in charge of the Clinton Utility Board.
Greg Fay.
Fay, yeah. Very, very nice man.
Yeah.
For the place. And
He's probably listening to you right now.
It was fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want a smart meter in my house because they're nosy. They know when your refrigerator kicks on. And I talked to the lady, and she said, well, they just know when the power kicks up. But, I could figure out after a while watching the numbers, which was my refrigerator, which was my furnace, and I guess I can figure out what time you go to bed because you drop some, turn all the lights out. But it's a data gathering thing, basically. Is the data for my benefit? Well, they would probably argue that it is. They can monitor it. But if you have a thermostat in your house that can be controlled electronically, if it's allowed, they can make your thermostat go up or down. If they think you got it set too high in the winter or too low in the summer, it can adjust that. But they've done studies, air quotes, that show that it's safe in the amount of electromagnetic radiation your body's exposed to. And it's radio frequency radiation because it contacts, other things and Wi-Fi as well.
Interesting.
But your body has a thing called a biofield. Now, if you remember last time I told you about, sometimes these communications companies will send the signal through your body without your permission because you're an electrical creature. Now, you've probably heard of an aura or a chakra or a chi or something like that, but that's your biofield. It actually has a code now medically. It does exist. You are electrical. You have an EKG, electrocardiogram. You have an EEG, electroencephalogram. Your body is electrical. And now they have figured ways to tap into you, to tell you what your temperature is, what your blood pressure is, what your heart rate is, what your respiratory rate is, all without you having on any kind of sensor. You don't have to put a sensor on your body. You don't have to wear a smartwatch or some kind of attachment. They can tell about you without any of that.
Well, I know some of the places that when COVID was going on, they just point something at you to see what your temperature was.
So what they want is you're driving down the road and then your respirations get a little irregular. In the future, they want to make your car pull over to the side and stop. That's how much they want to monitor what's going on. At some point, we have to say, no more data. No more data. I know people are probably laughing in the science field since we're in the world of science here with the National Science Lab, but it's got to stop, guys. You got enough data. You need to back off. And I know the military's got stuff years ahead of anything we've ever been shown and what they can tell about you and what you're using you for. But they ought not be able to use your body or get data from your body or data from your house without you saying, I'm okay with it. Some people probably are okay with it. But if we've lost all sort of sense of privacy, the Patriot Act took half our privacy, and Obamacare took the other half of it. We have no privacy here in the United States. You can't do anything without somebody knowing it. Your Wi-Fi can tell where you are in the house and what position you're in and whether you're hiding under the bed or what. Just your Wi-Fi. You don't have to have anything on your body. It can sense where you are in the house. We don't need more electromagnetic radiation. There is no safe amount of electromagnetic radiation, period. We have come to accept a certain amount, even though it's harmful to our health, because you are an electrical creature, and anytime you're around anything electric, it's messing with your body. And even the blue screens they use in all your boards, your iPads, your computers, all that goes in your eye and affects your brain. And blue is more effective than doing what they want to do. You can get glasses that block out the blue. I would recommend you do that. But I recommend better you just get away from the screen if you can. Get outside. Touch the earth. We are killing ourselves. And we're part of some grand experiment of which we've never signed up for. And remember, the FDA said you can do experiments on people if the risk of harming them is low. Well, who's determining that risk? The guy doing it. So you're being used. You are being used. and you're being early because they never ask you if they could use your body. And at some point, we're going to have to stop. It's because there's some people in the world somewhere that think if they had all the data on everybody and they could get it all together, they can make a perfect world. Well, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. You're just going to have the dictators, all you're going to get. So minimize your exposure to all electromagnetic radiation, and you'll be healthier for it. Trust me.
All right. Is that it for the day?
It is.
All right. We'll do it again. Man, Christmas time. Right around the corner. Happy Thanksgiving.
It's beginning to look a lot.
It is at my house. I'm surprised we've waited this long because she was going to have everything up by November 1st. We've got some stuff, but we managed to withhold a little bit.
I'm all for it.
I am too. All right, guys, enjoy your day. Make sure you stick around here. We will be back in just a moment. Wrap this up. Dr. Ayers is calling it today. You guys hang with us. This is Ask Your Neighbor on WYSH. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to AM 1380 WYSH and Ask Your Neighbor. Make sure you tune in at 10 a.m. each day, Monday through Friday, right here on AM 1380 WYSH and BBB TV 12. Or listen live online at WYSHradio.com. And remember, if you have a question, comment, or problem, call in tomorrow and ask your neighbor. Or email from our website. It's Ask Your Neighbor. Thanks for listening.